Welcome to Consumers Beverages Beer Show. I'm your host, Kim Piazza. Western New York has a long tradition of brewing, and these days, we're at the forefront of the craft beer industry. Today, we'll go behind the scenes at some local breweries and learn a few things you probably didn't know about beer. Our first stop today brings us to Holland, New York, the home of the Bee Spit Meadery, where the time-honored traditions of crafting this ancient brew are being given a modern twist. So we're going to sit down with Dave Pistello, and he is the man who knows mead. Hello, Dave.
How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having us here at this beautiful establishment. This is one of the most creative locations I've ever seen. Everything is handmade, not just the mead. You walk into this building and it's the bar and it's the tables and it's the art. So let's talk a little bit about what's in front of us, which is the mead. So we've got lots of color on this table.
Yep.
Talk to me about what we're looking at here.
This is basically our flights, and then we also have for our draft meads, which is a slightly carbonated mead, between 7 and 8% alcohol.
And so what I'm holding here is Atomic Dragon's Breath. It's atomic. What makes this Dragon's Breath mead atomic?
Well, it's made from atomic fireballs.
Oh my gosh.
So it literally tastes like an atomic fireball. Not the whiskey fireball, but an actual real fireball.
Honey has a lot to do with the product you're making, but maybe explain that a little bit for us.
So mead is made with yeast, honey, and water, and that's really about it. You can always add in spices and fruits and stuff like that to give it a flavor, but really the alcohol and the sugar content is coming from the honey itself.
And I think that we're going to maybe take a walk with your brother because this is a family affair.
Yep.
And you brew right here on the premises?
We do.
And you're going to share with us a little bit what that looks like and what that's about?
Absolutely.
I would love to introduce you to AJ Pistatello, who this is actually his brainchild. That was your brother we spoke to a moment ago, and this is kind of your baby.
It started out with yes. I made some Christmas presents, passed them out to the family, and I guess I got some good feedback and said we need to pass this out to some people.
Right, you did a good enough job that now we're standing back here. Tell me what we're looking at, because this looks kind of complex.
We start here with small batches. When I say small batches, we do about 100 gallons at a time. We have the capability of brewing 1,000 gallons of one flavor, but we choose to brew about 35 gallons of flavor each. So we take 1,000 gallons, we'll break it down into 35 gallons, and flavor it, keg it, and put it on tap, and that allows us to push out, I think this year we did 36 flavors.
Nothing but good. I want to see the taps. I want to hear about your, did you say 36 flavors?
We have 36 taps.
You got to show me. Let's go take a look.
So this is our beautiful tap room, and obviously there's a lot to choose from when you come in.
So 36 taps can be a little overwhelming, but you've got everything up here, right?
Yes. We have printed menus. We've got menus on our screens.
And what is this $10 off refills? What's that?
So if somebody comes in and buys a growler to fill, they get $10 off when they bring it back in to refill it.
Nice. That's better than a mug for refilling coffee. AJ, thank you so much. Thank you for walking us through. Thank you for showing us out back what you do, how you brew. And proof, folks, 36 taps. So you've got to come. And you've got to come over and over again until you get through the 36 taps. But then once you get through the 36 taps, I guarantee you, AJ
we'll have 12 more flavors
is going to have new flavors. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us to the Bee Spit Meadery.
The Starkenberger Castle Brewery in Austria offers a truly unique and immersive experience. The world's only beer swimming pools, where you can sit and relax in one of 7 13-foot-long pools, each containing over 42,000 pints of beer. It's been said that the vitamins and minerals in beer is good for the skin, but drinking from the pool is ill-advised.
Welcome back to Consumer Beverages Beer Show. Brewing in Buffalo hasn't always been easy. Next, we'll talk with local beer historian John Ice, who can tell us more about government laws and regulations over the years, things that made breweries take drastic measures just to survive.
There was the blue laws in in the 1800s. There's still some today, but where one of them was no selling of beer on a Sunday. You couldn't sell any beer on Sunday. So there was something that came about called Weiss beer or white beer, which was made with wheat, and it didn't quite fit into the definition of what beer was. So they could produce the Weiss beer and sell the Weiss beer. And it had alcohol, it was alcoholic beer, and it was legal on Sundays. So all of a sudden, a bunch of these small little breweries popped up just for the purpose of selling Weiss beer on Sundays. They had a lot of problems, like if people had picnics on Sundays. Well, it was harder to keep things cold back then. They didn't have refrigeration and all the stuff to get all the ice and everything. So they used to have them delivered. The brewery salespeople would deliver beer to a particular picnic, and they couldn't do that. So there were a lot of people got in trouble where they were selling it on Sundays, and some police officer or whatever would catch them and turn them in, and they would be in court. I know in the one case, they served this representative for one of the breweries, and I don't recall which one, delivered beer to a picnic on a Sunday. And the police officer got him and turned him in. When he showed up in court, the judge said, "I really don't see the problem here. People should be allowed to drink beer at a picnic on Sunday," and he dismissed the case. So apparently he didn't care much for that law either. So there's a lot of those type of anecdotal stories that go on from back then. During Prohibition, it became difficult, obviously, for the breweries to operate, and they basically stopped brewing beer per se, but nothing ever ends completely. There were a couple things going on in the Buffalo area that were maybe different than some other places. And one of those was that we had a mayor for 8 years during Prohibition, Frank Schwab, who was a brewer, was a person who was very much into the brewing industry and totally rejected Prohibition. So the police in Buffalo, the only people looking for people brewing in Buffalo were the federal agents. The local police and stuff really weren't doing a lot at that time. So a lot of illegal brewing continued in some of the breweries, and there were articles where they got shut down by the feds for brewing beer. There were a couple of breweries that happened at, and I'm sure there were more involved. But on the legal end, they started brewing beer that had no alcohol in it, where they took the alcohol out. As long as it had a 0.5% or less, they could sell it legally, and it still tasted like beer taste, like non-alcoholic beer would taste today. And then big breweries like Lang's, for instance, Gerhard Lang Brewery, his Park Brewery, they started doing other things, like they were selling pop, a lot of soda pop, and ginger ale, stuff like that, and they went to that business, and also into the dairy business, where they were selling milk, and they became a milk business. So that kind of kept them going. Manrue Schreiber's Brewery up on Fillmore Avenue in Buffalo, they went into coffee and were selling coffee during that time. So they figured out ways to try to keep open. Some of them closed down completely. I know, like the Broadway Brewery, that closed down completely, and it sat pretty much empty through Prohibition. However, it restarted after Prohibition as Stein's Brewery.
Now we're going to hear from Eric Coleman, co-owner of Ration Ales in Williamsville and a rising star in the Western New York craft beer scene. From consulting to tasting, Eric has his finger on the pulse of all things beer in Western New York.
Hi there, I'm Eric Coleman of Beer by Coleman. I am very fortunate and lucky to be an individual who has been in the craft beer and beverage business for 25 plus years now. And with what I do today, the culmination of all of that is very fortunate that I've been able to build a business and brand around all things craft beer and beverage. With Beer by Coleman, the different things I've involved with, I've been able to help open up and/or operate brewing companies for the last 25 years. I've been able to do that here in Western New York, consulting throughout New York State and around the country. In addition to that, I do corporate virtual tasting events. The virtual world really sprung up and I've been able to do a ton with the virtual tasting events. I also am very lucky and fortunate that I get to have helped transition the Western New York Brewers Guild to what it is today and being kind of like a liaison to them, if you will. Working with the New York State Brewers Association and Paul Leone and their team and helping them and other brewing associations throughout the country. In addition to all of that, where we're sitting right now at Ration Ales, everybody talks about, oh, we have really good beer, and you can go to a brewing company, they might have a guest tap. You can go to some of the bars where they have a couple brewing companies' beers. And Western New York does show the love. I'm not saying that they don't. But we're like, there's no one location you can really go into where you can see several or a dozen on tap, cans, whatever, local brewing companies' beers. And so we said, let's do that. So everything here at Ration Ales is born on a couple premises. Yes, we wanted some fun space, but also that when you come in here, everything on tap is 100% for the craft beer is Western New York and New York State beers. And we try to keep almost half of the beers we have in here just local. And we rotate that, showing love to as many people as we can, and then we do some pop-ups and some other fun things. We're gonna do some fun stuff around our sports themed product and our sports teams here in Western New York that you'll see in the fall, winter, and spring. But here at Ration Ales, we wanted to provide some really light fare, more sandwich soups. We have so many really good restaurants in the area where we're at. We didn't want to go the route of wings and burgers and everything else. We provide sandwiches, soups, a lot of other nice tidbits, appetizers to eat, but just creating an atmosphere where you can come as a one-stop shop to really try a lot of different local craft beer from the south towns to the north towns and everything in between. But you're able to come in and it's going to be rotating enough that you're always going to be able to try this brewing company or that brewing company or this cidery stuff and just really showcasing that Western New York liquid and enjoying some good libations. One of the things I've done in the craft beer and beverage world, which was born out of a time of not so good during COVID, people said, Eric, Coleman, everybody calls me Coleman. They said, give us something to listen to or go to on social media other than the chaos that we're seeing. I'm like, okay. The whole show is called What Are We Drinking About? With Bougie and the Beer. And with that, the What Are We Drinking About show is each week we like to always showcase a couple local or all local with some other stuff. And this is all just going to that education of craft beer and beverage, locally and otherwise, of maybe you're not normally an IPA person. Okay, well, we're gonna show, maybe there's one that's an entry level, or I'm not a big hopper, so it's like whatever, or people see dark beer, oh, it's too heavy. I'm like, well, and so it's as much as I call edutainment, as well as fun, to do some crazy outfits. And so I'm very grateful because something that was born out of giving people a distraction has evolved into an educational piece for those who are new to craft beer or beverages, mead, cider, even spirits, is just another vehicle to help drive the message of really good liquids and really showcasing the Western New York liquids that we have, and just grateful to be on that ride as well.
We'll be right back with more of the Consumers Beverages Beer Show. But first, here's another fun fact about beer that you might not have known.
Did you know that beer can actually clean your teeth? A study that was recently published in the Journal of Biomedicine and Biotechnology found that even the weakest extracts of beer has shown to block the activity of bacteria that promotes tooth decay and gum disease. So the next time you run out of toothpaste, just go to the fridge and grab a beer.
Welcome back to Consumers Beverages Beer Show. Now we'll visit with another local beer historian, Peter Jablonski, who has an impressive collection of early brewing artifacts and historically significant pieces of Buffalo brewing history.
My name's Peter Jablonski. I'm president of the Greater Buffalo Bottle Collectors Association. One of Buffalo's first breweries was Joseph Webb, which started in 1811 in Black Rock. The brewery probably burned during the War of 1812, but the actual first brewery in the city of Buffalo was probably Captain Docks, who actually was a captain during the War of 1812, and his brewery was located at Morgan and Mohawk. Morgan is now South Elmwood. His brewery then was taken over by Hargrave and Lee. So Hargrave and Lee were also grocers, and it was common for, at this early time in Buffalo history, for brewers to have more than one business, because in the hot summer months they couldn't brew because there was no refrigeration. So Hargrave and Lee, they would use the ash from the brewing and they would make candles. So that was one of their side businesses. So this is Old Void stoneware piece. It's a very early piece of Buffalo history. This dates to 1830. One of the next early breweries in Buffalo was Heiser and Holzer. They were located on Carroll Street in Buffalo. And again, they could not brew when it was very hot in the summer. So they had a stoneware manufacturing business, and the stoneware company was Godfrey Heiser, who came from Germany. So this is an example of an early Old Void jug from the Heiser pottery. It then was taken over by his brother John Heiser, and then it later became the Braun pottery. But the Heiser and Holzer brewery burned in 1856. And it was very common to have fires in the breweries because these ovens where they were drying the malt would overheat and it would cause fires. So for example, the Phoenix Brewery in Buffalo, it was originally Albert Ziegel Brewery, which when it caught on fire, they renamed it Phoenix after the mythological character which rose from the ashes. If you live in Buffalo, you know that there's just about a bar in every corner. And the reason there was a bar in every corner is Buffalo's location on the Great Lakes made it a perfect place for brewing because they could get shipments of barley from the Midwest and from Canada, and also the early German and Irish immigrants that were used to drinking beer, and also that was their industry. So the source of water, the source of ice from the lakes that they needed, and there were many breweries had ice caves. And during construction, for example, of the subway, they discovered caves that were from the breweries where they were storing beer in the summer months to keep it cold. And of course, the Erie Canal, that increased the size of the city and the number of people who were drinking beer. And also we talked about Heiser pottery. They could not make the stoneware until the Erie Canal came in and they could ship the quality clay from Long Island and from New Jersey.
Before we wrap things up, let's take a look at the company who makes this show possible, Consumers Beverages. Since 1948, Consumers Beverages has been Buffalo's beer store. Let's catch up with the president of Consumers, Neil Kavanaugh.
So my dad started Consumers Beverages in 1948 with 3 other gentlemen, and their objective was to home deliver beer and soda pop to the residents of Erie County. The other gentleman that he started the business with left the business within a few years of its inception. However, my dad kept the business going and grew from 15 truck routes up to 50 truck routes by about 1966. at which time he started opening retail stores. As the community in Western New York grew and people's desire to buy beer on their way home from work grew, he was able to open more stores. Our first store opened in 1966 on South Park Avenue in South Buffalo, and we've now grown to 18 locations over Erie and Niagara County. When the business first started, they had 5 brands of beer and 2 brands of soda pop that they distributed, that consumers distributed. And they, in 1950, opened up a soft drink bottling plant in the building at Genesee and Bailey, and we were manufacturing soda pop until 1988. We had 17 different flavors of regular, 5 different flavors of diet in 10-ounce bottles and 32-ounce bottles, but as 2 liters prevailed in the market, and we sold the property where the bottling plant was housed, we focused more on the beer end of things. And when the company started, as I said, there were 5 brands of beer. Today we have nearly 3,000 different brands of beer in stock at each of our stores, all available ice cold. So I like to tell people that my dad took me to work on Take Your Son to Work Day when I was 9 years old, and he hasn't sent me home yet. My first job at Consumers was washing the floors in the offices, which are located in South Buffalo. When I was in 6th grade, on Saturdays and Sundays, my dad would take our whole family to work and assign us each a job. So it's truly a family-run business, family-owned business, and many members of our family are still here today. We've been able to grow the business in Western New York because of our loyal and dedicated staff members. We have multiple staff members who have been on staff for 20, 30, up to 50 years. We have many retirees in the community, but without our loyal and dedicated staff members, we would not have been able to serve the patrons in Western New York that are interested in having cold, fresh beer, especially local beers, at their convenience at any one of the 18 consumer beverage locations. We have over 3 buyers in our central office in South Buffalo that are currently seeking out craft beers from the local breweries as well as regional breweries, breweries in Canada, breweries across the world. We also have a network of distributors that bring us the products and the items that we currently have in stock. And there's been quite an influx of new items lately, including lemonades and teas and ready-to drinks. And we search the world and we search the globe to find the items that our customers are looking for. The local breweries in Western New York put out unbelievable products. We have over 20 Western New York breweries that we feature in store. Each one of the breweries brings their own specialty items to the table, and it's one-stop shopping for people interested in local beers. We have an opportunity to continue to grow the business in Western New York. We're celebrating our 75th year. We have plans on deck to build 2 more stores in Western New York. I have 3 sons that are actively in the business, and we're looking forward to a bright future for Consumers Beverages.
Collecting beer bottle labels is a popular hobby not only in America, but around the world as well. What is its official name? Is it A, Tegestology, B, Labiorphaly, C, Trophology, D, Lithology? The answer is B, Labiorphaly.
Thanks for watching the Consumers Beverages Beer Show. See you next time.